Super, yeah, this is very exciting.
Didn't they do bad shit to Romanians?
Well, some of them kind of were in on it. It's a complicated history.
Yes.
Anyway.
What a start that.
You missed the whole conversation, but hello, Peter Bell. Welcome to the Twins, Obviously podcast.
Hello.
I do need to acknowledge and address the fact that Claude is on the run from the law as we speak. We will find out more about him as soon as he resurfaces in the news, I guess. But until then...
Hopefully not. Hopefully he keeps on the run.
Yeah? Oh, you never... Claude did nothing wrong! Free Claude!
He'll get caught because he'll show up at an open mic.
Yes. Hashtag Claude is innocent.
Yes.
What was I going to say? I mean, I just wanted to start with something light. Did you see that the BBC is releasing a new pedo?
Yes.
It's
Season 3 of Nonce. It's great. I don't... The big problem is lots of people are taking to the internet to guess who it is.
Yeah, Ned, don't do that.
Completely unaware that they can get sued for lots and lots and lots and lots of money.
I mean, that's as far as slander and libel goes. I'm pretty sure that's under that.
Yeah, it was defamation. This is one of the things we got taught about when I did the postgrad in journalism, because obviously, if you're going out that line of work, you can't say anything that isn't true. There are a couple of things you can get away with it for, and this is not advice for you to say whoever you like's an odds. So you can say it if it's an opinion.
In my humble opinion.
If you're clearly joking, you get away with it then. If you say it in Parliament...
It's okay, so you're like, they're nuns.
Well, I mean, a stand-up comedian during a show could probably call someone a paedophile and get away with it because they are within that format. So if it's obviously a joke, then you're safe. Parliamentary privilege as well, so
you can call someone a pedo in Parliament?
Well, members of Parliament can.
Wow.
But there's also rules about how you conduct yourself in Parliament, so you can't, if you call someone a liar in Parliament, the Speaker will give you into trouble. So if you call someone a nonce, I imagine he'd step in.
I'm just having in my, order.
Yeah, exactly.
The Honourable Nonce.
To be fair, it's full of nonces, so they probably would.
Allegedly.
Yes.
Wink, joke, all that.
I didn't name anyone, so you can't sue me.
But I just love the fact that now they're teasing it. Man, it's a teaser.
Although, what's
who's it going to be?
What's the deal? I heard it was... He paid a 17-year-old
like 30,000.
Yeah,
this is all just what I read randomly.
Yeah, I hate to be this guy, but that person wouldn't technically be a paedophile, then, would they?
If they paid 30,000 to a
17-year-old,
is that not? Is it hebephile or
no? Because that's over legal age of consent in this country. So it's creepy. And if they didn't want that to happen, then it's definitely grooming. But
you know what?
It's not nonsense.
I mean, this is like a technicality.
Yeah. I mean, it's still wrong. It's still morally objectionable.
It's like the World Cup goal. Was it back in the English World Cup goal? It's a bit like that.
I mean, it's not crossed the line, but it's almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a good look for the BBC, even if it isn't. And it would be particularly a bad look for the BBC if they came forward when he's not technically a paedophile. It doesn't make you look any better.
Just calling it the BBC defence.
Yeah.
Imagine from now on, it's just news come up and there's just a 1 minute section of definition of the word paedophile.
But it's going to get
public
to that
service announcement.
Yeah, I bet Prince Andrew's watching it just go, damn, why didn't I think of that? I could have just said that in an excuse.
Oh, Jesus.
That fucking interview, man, who told him to do that? And then Schofield did one as well. And I'm not saying any of these people are paedophiles. But I see, I've made it clear that I didn't say that.
Exactly, so. You were like...
Also, how much good would that do for this podcast if I got sued for defamation on it?
Can we get sued for defamation? I'm trying to figure.
No, it would
be like, It
would be me. It would be me. In fact, no. Technically, this is another thing I learned. So, if a newspaper prints a defamatory statement, even if someone else has said it, the newspaper's still liable. So, so you would be. So,
hang on.
None of those people are paedophiles.
I can say that Peter's views do not represent the official views of the Twins Obviously podcast.
Well, that was bad that you said that because I just said they weren't paedophiles. So if my views don't represent yours, that means you think
none of his views represent. Oh man,
we didn't even come here to talk about that today.
No, we did not. But you got to start light. You got to start nice and friendly. Don't try this at home, kids. God, I'm cringing because last time we recorded the podcast, somehow we ended up talking about pedos again. It's a running topic in the news recently. So I feel like, and I just made that same joke of don't try this at home. So I'm like, ugh.
It's always a deep well of humor.
Yes,
nonce.
Yes. Oh boy. Well, I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously we had a conversation about the specific topic we want to discuss, but I thought maybe just obviously you have something coming up at the Fringe.
Yes.
And thought maybe why not just get that out of the way now? Get that promoted now instead of like, oh, at the end they're like, oh, fun fact.
Oh yeah, okay, right.
Let's give you the chance to fucking go into it.
Well, there's a couple of things. Obviously, as Sauchiehall Comedy Club, we have the room at the Fringe, Hoot 5, and Hootenanny's at the Apex, which is the Apex Hotel and Conference Centre in Grassmarket. So we've got that room between 9:10 and 10:10 every night, and we're doing a whole bunch of different shows. Obviously, you're doing your show in the last weekend. We've got Tattoo Dave, Stu, and I think Sean are doing a show together.
Kyle Allen and
yes, we've got so many different people coming in doing compilations. Al Thompson's going to come in and do his solo show with a couple of supports, and then on the last Friday of the Fringe, I'm doing my first solo show. Is he all right? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. I'm far from all right.
And we're going to go into one of the reasons today.
Yeah. So basically, the whole premise of that show is a lot of my stand-up is very self-deprecating. And I've started to include things about being brought up working class. Obviously, having autism comes into it quite a lot. And different aspects of my upbringing, like religion, stuff like that. Although I don't talk about so much the one we're going to discuss today. It's more about the Catholic Church because they seem, more up for a laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, Father Ted was brilliant, So
I feel like at this point they have no choice.
Yeah, exactly. Lean into it. So yeah, it's just that it's about all that kind of stuff mashed together. I've done so many different 10-minute sets all over the place now. I thought, why not just try and pull them all together into the one show? And because of my style of humour and the things I joke about, it's quite easy to tie them all together. So,
and I forgot to mention, but we also have the winner of the Stockton Gong, so the man's doing well. And
I didn't ask him to say that.
No, but you fucking deserve it. You've been working hard. And
hilarious. It was that was wild, man. It was a lot of fun. So when we travelled down, so it was me, Kirsty, her husband, and Jack. All travelled down together. Me and Jack stayed in a hotel, which we paid £30 each for.
Should probably say Jack Trainer and Kirsty Morrison, so people know who we're talking about.
Kirsty Lynch.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The other Kirsty.
So we all travelled down together, and then me and Jack, when we went to our hotel, I mean, wow. It was a room above a pub. There was no toilet in the room, so you had to go down the hall to use the toilet. But there was a shower in the room. The shower was mouldy, and there was no sort of lino around the outside of it, so you just walked out of the shower onto the carpet. And the door was glass, so you couldn't shower if someone else. You couldn't shower if someone else is in the room. You look at the window and there was just a fucking rubbish pile.
So who flashed who first?
Oh no, we took the sensible decision of we would go for a shower whilst the other person was like out doing something else. So
no one jagged it with some sort of shenanigan.
Yeah, probably. No, it was just a really good laugh, and then obviously we went to the show. It was just super hyped because Adam Rowe was the host, so you were getting to play on the same stage as he had performed that night. He was sat to the side, watching obviously with the gong. If you don't know what a gong show is, we probably should explain that. Actually.
Yeah.
So it's basically 3 people in the crowd get cards. You've got a minute's grace at the start when you're doing stand-up, and you have to try and last 5 minutes. And those that last 5 minutes go through to like a clap off to see who wins. And in this one, they do actually use a decibelometer to decide who is actually getting the loudest applause.
Oh, wow.
And one of the acts did not like that. He thought he had won, and the woman was reading out the decibels, and she was like, "You have not." And he bitterly spoke about it on Instagram afterwards. I won't say his name, but yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's like, mate, it's just a bit of fun. Come on.
It's a fucking Gong show.
Yeah, exactly. They're just a bit of fun. And everyone that gets through to that round, I think, gets some kind of gig off them. Because Jack got some gigs as a result of getting
through the Gong.
It might have been if you made it through to the final 3 or whatever, because he did. But I don't know. But it was great fun, man. Just playing alongside Adam Rowe. It was really weird because I was teeing up a joke, when I talk about autism and superpowers.
Yeah.
I was teeing up that, and then the music played to let me know that I was done, I was safe, I could go off. And Adam said, I really want to know what his superpower is. And then at the end of the Gong show, after I'd won, the audience started chanting to get me back out on stage while I'm at the back trying to fill in paperwork because they wanted to hear the end of the superpower joke. And I didn't realise this was going on. I'm just signing paperwork, and Jack just comes up, grabs me and throws me back on stage. So I'm walking out, and Adam Rowe goes, Peter, I think you're the first person in comedy history to ever get an encore at a Gong show. But I mean,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, the joke, obviously, it doesn't have the same. It didn't have the preamble. Didn't have the setup. Adam warned them about this. He was like,
"It's not going to be the payoff." Like, in your head now, it's like this fucking thing.
It's not going to be the payoff you want it to be, even if the joke is brilliant. And in my head, I'm thinking exactly the same thing. I'm going, "This is not going to be worth it to you guys." Because that bit works because it's in the middle of a big bit about autism. Just out of the blue is going to be like, why are you talking about that?
Yeah, it's just like someone randomly coming up to you and just
exactly
giving you like a weird fact in no context and fuck it off.
After the show, we went for a couple of drinks with Kirsty, our husband, and then me and Jack went back to the hotel. I think I had a pint and we watched Paddy and Sean on the Fatherless podcast. It was an amazing weekend, honestly.
Nice.
I highly recommend it to any comedians.
I mean, I'm probably gonna go down for the next one.
It's just so much fun, man. And like the way I looked at it and the way I've said to other people who are going down to do it, if you look at it as a competition, you'll get all worked up about it. The way you need to view it is you're not going to piss off any bookers because you don't gig there regularly.
Yeah.
If you do it die in your arse, you're not going to perform in front of this audience again for ages anyway, and they'll probably not remember you by the time you do it again. So there's no pressure. Just go out and have fun.
Yeah.
And what Jack said to me, which was really good advice, is don't look at Adam at any point. Just don't look at because he's a professional comedian and one of my comedy heroes because I'm a big fan of the Have a Word podcast. He was like, it will get in your head. Just act like he's not there and don't look at him at all because in your brain you'll be going, I'm trying to do stand up and there's fucking Adam Rowe over there.
Yeah. And then there's a part of you, like, especially if you like look up to them and you be like, oh, are they laughing or they're not laughing?
Yeah.
And if they're laughing, then you're like, oh, they throw you off your rhythm because you're like, oh, they liked it.
Yeah.
And you forget where you're fucking going with it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And if they're not laughing, that could just crush your confidence so much. So no, it was very important just to remain focused on the audience, which is a good tip for any comedian anyway.
Nice.
That's who you're there for. So yeah, the Fringe show, we're doing hunters throughout. We've got the full run, 4th to the 27th or 8th, whenever your last show is.
Is that the last one?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Sunday's the last one.
Okay.
If it isn't, we might have to fill another slot. But
I think there's like, because I saw the month, and I think there was like maybe a couple of 2 days after. But if not, then
I don't know. I'll need to have a look. But it's something like that. And it's always 9:10. We'll be doing hundreds of different stuff, lots of compilation shows, and we're going to do a kind of big fat quiz style thing on one of the Saturdays where the audience will get to take part in the quiz, but we'll have a panel of comedians, different teams doing the quiz. Kyle's going to be the quiz master. And it'll be a lot of fun. We'll come up with some kind of prize for the audience, and then the prize for the comedian will just be winning.
I feel like at this point, the plural of comedians has just become a panel.
Yes. Yeah. That's actually a podcast is probably more accurate these days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true.
Now the mock the week's died, but
I
know.
Gone but not forgotten.
That was my best hope.
Fair enough, man. I mean, it's just exciting to have you on here. Obviously, so we had a little chat because we started out just around the same time, comedy-wise, and then we realized that we had something in common, pretty major in common, actually.
Yeah, something very few other people can say they have in common.
Yeah, we both have a very strong relationship with Jehovah.
He's my man.
And Jesus. But yeah, man, it's quite wild. So you grew up. Hang on, I need to get this right. So you were in the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was in the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes.
Right? Did you grow up in it or not?
So originally we were Catholic, and then my mum got divorced, and Catholics don't look very kindly upon that.
And the Jehovah's Witnesses are like, oh,
here's a support network.
Yeah,
Exactly. Because lots of our friends were Jehovah's Witnesses anyway, which is strange because they actively discourage that kind of thing. But yeah, so basically from that point on for a few years into my teenage years, we were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, man, it's fucking wild because so basically I had this literal conversation and this very lovely Jehovah's Witness lady who I would look up to as a kid literally said, the people most receptive to the truth are people that have lost people recently, the people that are going through hardship. Those are the ones that need it the most. Which is on the one hand sounds cute and it's fuzzy and all that. On the other hand, it's like a fucking very weird marketing scheme and just
do you know
grab them while they're weak.
Yeah, if a guy said that about a woman looking for love, you would call him a creep. You would say you're taking advantage of someone's emotional distress.
Yeah.
That is basically what they're doing.
Is it not a fucking? And what film is it? There's was it The Wedding Crashers?
Yeah,
you gotta go to a funeral. That's where you get them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's very much the same thing. Yeah. It's very. I mean, the way I view it is from your average punter going to the Kingdom Hall or whatever. They are nice people.
Oh yeah.
But the people at the top, they must know that this is clandestine and malevolent. I mean,
see that's interesting because I had to think a lot about that. Obviously, once you leave it and you start realizing the bunch of bullshit that you learned as a kid, you get a bit fucking angry about it. You get pissed off, and then you kind of go, okay. Like in my parents' case, so the people that were around me, these were good people. Like it's not like they were doing it, without thought. It's not like they didn't care. They cared very much. They cared so much that they wanted you to live forever.
Exactly.
So they just brainwashed you into a bunch of shit. Do you know what I mean? So, but then there has to be like an element of like, you motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but the problem is they are themselves so brainwashed that they don't realize they're brainwashed. Which is why it's so effective. I actually wrote a blog on, remember when Jehovah's Witnesses were banned in Russia? It was a couple of years back. The religion Jehovah's Witness got banned as an extremist religion.
There was something mentioned. Yeah. Oh, and the witnesses I knew were like, oh, it's happening.
Yeah,
this is it. This is the big one.
We predicted this. But I wrote a blog on it discussing whether Jehovah's Witnesses were extremist or whether they were a dangerous cult or just something, just your average extreme religion. And that was one of the things I talked about was the brainwashing, because the way that they raise you is they actively discourage higher education.
Yep.
So don't go to uni, stay in school only as long as you're supposed to and become a window cleaner. That's basically what they told me. And
they very much, they're like, so there's a whole thing about I'm trying to think, because they have very specific terminology. They have their own language pretty much. I mean, not English, but they're, and there's something about a development of character, something like along those lines of self-development. Like they're very much against you working on yourself.
Yeah. Because it's wasted in this world.
Yeah, it's basically the more you build yourself up, the less time you spend on like praising God.
Yeah.
And
the ministry and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they don't like higher education. They don't let you read any books, basically, that aren't written by them.
Yep.
So if you wanted to learn about other religions, you'd be like, well, here's a book we've written about other religions. Like, that's going to be accurate.
That is basically like how to debate them.
Yeah, essentially. Like science, they were like, yeah, we've got books on that. And it's all just like... And what I realised is, in one of them, I was reading one of them, and it had a quote from Charles Darwin that seemed to suggest that he believed in God and creation.
Yeah.
And that threw me completely off, because I was like, well, Darwin was not the inventor, but certainly the first big proponent of the theory of evolution.
Yeah.
So I don't think he'd have said that. So I Googled it and I looked up the quote, and they'd taken just a tiny little snippet of what he said that could be construed in that way. But if you read the full thing, it's basically a big list of reasons of why evolution is true and creation. Is bollocks. So
yeah.
that was a big thing for me, realizing, they're not telling us the truth here. Ironically, because they refer to the religion as the truth.
Yeah.
So that is just an example of brainwashing. You can't read any books from elsewhere. You can't go to higher education. You're not supposed to really even associate with anyone that isn't a member of the church outside of what you have to, like work or school. So they're your workmates and your schoolmates. Outside of those hours, you shouldn't be speaking to them. And if you think about it, it's basically what the party were doing in 1984.
Yeah.
Like, they control all the information you get.
And whenever they do make a mistake and they, like, okay, this is obviously bullshit, they come out with the classic line of the truth advances. We have seen there's been new light.
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, I wanted to ask a bunch of things because we had slightly different experiences, but I got so much into it. I believed in it like hardcore. I grew up in it. Like, my first memories of my dad was, reading like Bible stories to me and things like that. And then around the age of 12, I was fluent enough in English that I started translating for my local church. So, Kingdom Hall, they're not allowed to call them churches, but also we were an offshoot. So I mentioned this to you. So there's the Global Jehovah's Witnesses, but then in every country, potentially you will find like offshoots of different branches, different fucking brands that have like, no, you're not right, or whatever. Somebody had a bigger ego and they were like, I'm going to go our own way. And this specific one would study the Watchtower and their publications up to 1962.
That's a very strange year to stop.
There's a whole, they picked on a Bible verse, Romans 13:1, the whole thing about, I don't have time to go into that. Like, this is very geeky Jehovah's Witness shit.
Yeah, no one else gives a shit.
No, tell me what you think about this verse, brother. How do you interpret it? Who are the higher powers? But basically, I was so much into it that I was translating it, and on the one hand, it helped my English. On the other hand, I started seeing a lot of the language, a lot of the development of the faith, and it started becoming a bit more and more sus.
Aye.
And after a while, you start seeing through it. And I remember this specific article. It was called The Christian Way of Using Your Wealth, or something along those lines. I had to translate this. And the whole article was like a four-page long article about, God created heaven and the earth and everything belongs to God. So if you're wealthy, the right thing to do is to give your wealth to God, to, the ministry. Yeah. So like, and my cousin and I, we both came out at the same time from the church and we looked at each other like, it's just basically said, give us your money. I was like, yep, pretty much.
The thing is, we had like some really rich people in our congregation as well. And I don't understand how people smart enough to make that amount of money. I suppose it was easier to make money back in those days. Like, one of them was like a shoe magnet. Like, magnate, not a shoe magnet. Sorry.
In my head, I was like, wait, what? This guy just hanging on a fridge.
No. So he ran a massive shoe company or something like that. Okay. And there was just other people that were really shrewd businessmen and stuff like that.
Was this an ethical shoe company?
Yeah, well, as far as I'm aware, I didn't buy shoes from them. Not for any particular reason, just because I couldn't afford them. They generally were quite charitable people, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was the science thing as well. The more I learned about the actual universe and how it really works, the more I kind of went, well, this Bible thing doesn't really make sense. The way they justify like the earth being made in 7 days is like they say a day for us is like a year for God, and then a year could be 1,000 years for God.
And then it suddenly becomes 7,000 years, and
it just escalates and escalates. But it never gets to the point of 13.5 billion, which is actually what the earth is.
No.
It never gets that far.
Because that would mean the dinosaurs are real, and we know they're not.
Well, I'm sure that we were taught that the dinosaurs did exist, but they were sent to flatten the earth for us.
Wait, what? So I guess again.
Like
I was brought up with the 50s fucking, knowledge.
Wait, I might be quoting a different religion there. But I'm sure that they did accept. I'm sure that the Jehovah's Witnesses I went to did accept dinosaurs.
Okay, so
as being a real thing.
Yeah, I think we were told that like because obviously God created animals and whatnot. They might have been like the earlier days, and then by the later days they're like, God was like, just
I think that
or
was,
the flood. The flood was the other thing.
No, I think we were taught that they were all gone before the flood.
Okay,
but I can't remember the exact way it works, but it was on day one God created the heavens and the earth.
Yep.
And he said, "Let there be light." And then on day 3, God created the sun. How's that work?
Well, obviously.
Where was the light coming from? It's only when you start actually reading it properly and not just because see when people are reading it out from the stage in the building, you're not listening.
Hey, wait. Here's the thing. You're not appreciating it. So the sun is like a light bulb, Yeah. So he created electricity on the first day, and then third day he was like, okay. There's God just going.
It's mad, and the more I looked into it, I started googling scientifically inaccurate things about the Bible.
Yeah.
And there's a mention of a 4-legged winged beast in the Bible, and
there's a bunch of beasts. And
no paleontologist or fossil digger has ever found proof that there's been an animal with 4 legs and wings in all of history. So don't know what they were talking about. But another big problem was, so when we were very young, my mum did a lot of work with the GGLC, which is the Glasgow Gay and Lesbian Community.
Oh, that's a big no-no.
A lot of work with Red Ribbon. This was when we were Catholics and stuff like that. So we were just raised around gay people, and it was perfectly normal to us. Like, I referred to some of them as my aunts and uncles and stuff. It was just normal and accepted to us. And even when we moved into Jehovah's Witnesses, we were still like cool with gay people because we were just like, we're not gonna, like, it's not a choice for them. Like,
yeah.
So
Clearly,
we're not gonna be like that. And the more and more extreme people would get about that kind of stuff, they would only ever say things. But when one of the guys, because they sent a couple of guys around to try and talk us back in when me and my mum were like, sack this off, we're going. And one of the things we were talking about is that I said, I don't like your views on homosexuality. I think I've got a lot of gay friends. They're some of the best people I know.
Oh, that is wild, man.
Yeah, and the guy said the acceptance of homosexuality is one step away from the acceptance of paedophilia, at which point I told him to get out of my house. So,
see, there's like, people have no idea about this entire subculture that exists, right, around the world, of like, you trying to leave this religion and they turn up at your door to be like, well, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, they're more fucking insistent, like a TV license.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you sure you don't need your soul for eternity?
Yeah.
Sorry, they don't believe in a soul, but you sure you don't want to live forever?
Yeah.
Fuck. What age were you when the family did decide to join them?
So I would have been about 7 or 8.
Okay, so that might have been an interesting roller coaster. Because you've had a taste of the actual world.
Yeah, well, no.
And what age were you when you left?
I was autistic, so my taste of the world was very limited to like my bedroom and the street that I grew up on. So,
okay. So you're about 8 years old when you joined. What age were you when you left?
Probably about 16.
Oh, solid stretch.
Yeah.
8 years in Folsom Prison. Let's go.
So I'm trying to remember. So I was, of course, because I was being raised Catholic at the time. But I'd certainly joined before my confirmation, and I think that's about 10 or 11. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't been involved with that kind of thing for a very long time. So I think it was about 8. So when my parents got divorced, and I should probably know that. No, I should definitely know that because my mum took me to her divorce lawyers, which possibly isn't the best idea she ever had, but she had no one to babysit me. So,
fair enough.
But no, yeah. So
here's a little bit of childhood trauma for you, Peter.
about 8 till about 16. My sister already left because she got disfellowshipped for having premarital sex with her long-term boyfriend, and obviously that is disgusting.
Also, but in Paisley though, like that's.
Oh no. So I live in Paisley now, but we grew up in a scheme in Newton Mearns. Believe it or not, they have a massive council estate there, and it's a shithole.
Okay, but it's still like. Read the room.
Yeah.
It's like, if there's gonna be premarital sex, it's gonna be in Scotland.
Yeah, I know, but
amongst
still, like, it's still so abhorrent. It's like a disfellowshipping offence. It's completely no. I mean, like, they take it as seriously as, I mean, for somebody, they're dead against porn and, you know, giving yourself a scene to and all that kind of stuff. So I can't imagine they'd be fond of premarital sex. But that's why so many of them get married so young.
Oh, yeah, because they have to.
Yeah. And
because they fucking ready to explode.
And I'm sorry if anyone that I grew up with is going to end up seeing this, but I know a lot of unhappy marriages that have come from that. And they are stuck together now because what God has put together, let no man tear apart. They're in it now for the rest of their miserable lives.
But hey, you got eternity to look forward to.
Yeah, with all those kids you keep pumping out.
Man, see, that's the thing, right? So on the one hand, as we said, like, I feel for the people that are in it still.
Yeah.
The people that I care about, or, you know, that I grew up with, that were nice to me and they were kind to me. And, like, you know, I grew up with a single dad, so they would, like, give me clothes and, you know, like, so many nice things they would do. On the same fucking hand, or, you know, these are the same people that, like, I know, I don't want to name people in the group, but somebody I know, a youngster who just left as well. And he would get a text from his dad because somebody saw him with a rocket, like just a heavy metal band, whatever, on his t-shirt. And the message just goes, "Hey, you dumb kid," or "Hey, you idiot kid, you can't think, da-da-da-da-da. I heard you doing these and this. You're bringing shame. You leaving God, da-da-da." Like, just so, like, the most brutal put down you ever want to hear from a parent. Of, like,
100%.
You're incapable of thought.
Yeah. No, anytime you step out of line, the whole compassion thing goes completely. Thankfully, my mum was never like that because she wasn't raised in those circumstances. Like yourself, though, like, we had no money at all, and they were very supportive of us financially. If we needed help, they would step in and do stuff because, again, they are nice people. They're just brainwashed.
But, like, the level of it is so... This is how I like to explain to people, like, see when you're driving down the motorway, these are people that have cars. They're driving next to you. They go home, they sit down, they, you know, start having dinner, and 5 minutes and they're talking about demons.
Yeah.
Like, this actually happened to me. I went back home to visit, and, you know, "Oh, how are you? Haven't seen you in ages." Demons. We're fucking, like, end of the world, demons. Like, that's where we are. And this is, like, light chat.
Yeah.
This is, like, casual Sunday conversation at the dinner table.
A few people thought Pokemon was demonic. Yeah, so I got a Game Boy Advance for, like, a special day, as they called it.
I can hear Sean laughing in the background.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with me being special, but so I thought, like, I've got a couple of spare old Game Boys. And, like, a couple of old Pokemon games. There's this kid. He doesn't have a Game Boy. He doesn't have Pokemon or anything like that. And I know he'd like it, so I'll just, you know, give it to him. Like, parents or friends, we've, like, gone and stayed at their house and stuff like that. It'll be a nice thing to do, you know, just a nice wee gesture. So I gave it to him, and he was over the moon, delighted about it. And then a couple of weeks later, I asked him how he was getting on with it, and he told me that his mum had bent it. And the game and the games console. Don't know why she bent that, because you could get games that aren't Pokemon for it, that aren't demonic, like Mario. But still,
well, Mario's got fucking, you know.
He's having premarital sex. That's the problem.
Yeah. He's chasing a princess.
Yeah.
There's that. What's the bad guy called in it? The
Bowser.
Yeah, Bowser. Well, he's kind of demonic.
I mean, he's more of a turtle, but
yeah, he's an evil. Like, we know on what side he's on.
Yeah.
Like, there's no.
Yeah, no. But my mum was just annoyed because she was like, if you didn't want it, give it back.
Yeah, of course.
Don't just put it in the bin. But yeah, there was lots of things like that. Some of the things they decided were so inherently evil and wrong, and you can't touch them or you can't look at them. It's just like, yeah, come on, man, it's Pokemon. It's harmless.
So I remember playing. So, I mean, getting a computer and a video game and the internet was like fucking mind blowing.
Yeah.
So my grandma would regularly remind me that her generation was not allowed to read novels. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would read like, and my mom was big on like, you know, just read as many books as you can. So I'm reading, devouring anything and everything. And my grandma was just being like, well, that's interesting because back in my day, you're not allowed to do that. It was the Bible and the Watchtower and nothing else.
Yeah.
But basically, I remember playing, these two things stick out to me. I'm playing Spider-Man, the movie, the game.
Yep.
We have to make the first Spider-Man. And I'm having to explain to my dad that Spider-Man fighting off the baddies is a good thing. Because even though he's violent, he's on the good side. And it's a video game. And my dad's like kind of buying it. So I managed to have it at home. And then I got a massive bollocking for reading Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That one. Whew, the bollocking I got for that one.
Yeah, I didn't even try it. Well, I wasn't interested in Harry Potter anyway. But yeah, they were real big on you can't read.
But now
anything.
you're very interested in J.K. Rowling.
She makes some good points.
Oh, fuck.
Sorry, Dean.
Wink. Clearly joking. Wink.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were saying, so you wouldn't even try it?
No, I was never interested in Harry Potter, to be honest with you. Broken Sky books were more my thing, and they weren't about witches, so that was fine. I mean, it's still people basically with magical powers, but
But let me fuck the other thing. So the differences between our different versions of the thing. We weren't allowed dancing. We're not allowed parties. No birthdays. I think that's
no birthdays.
No Christmas other than like was it fucking not Memorial Day? What's it called? Basically, Easter.
So it was called Memorial Day, but it's like Nisan 14 Passover.
It's a Passover. Yeah, so you had that also.
Yeah, that wasn't really a celebration though.
It was just more like
some deluded people that thought they were members of the anointed class drinking wine. I don't think we ever saw anyone do it, to be honest.
And then no birthdays. I'm coming back to that, but the other thing is, I remember watching. I got some like a concert of this. The guy's called Yanni. He's like a new age musician. The mildest fucking thing. Like there's no lyrics. Okay, it's just like an orchestra and just playing music, and it's pretty hip, pretty cool. I like it. And at some point, there's like a violin like duel. And, she's having a little groove with it. And my dad just flips out of like, they're dancing. You're watching dancing. Like, you're not going to hell. But like, for us, that was like a big no-no.
Yeah.
So like, I'm having to explain. I'm like, well, okay, they're not dancing. They're just having a good time.
Like, that's so wild to me, man, because we were... they'd regularly organise Kayleys and stuff like that, and obviously getting drunk was looked down badly upon, but people would drink, they would have parties and stuff like that. But I think that's just because they knew there would be no way of telling British or particularly Scottish people,
you can't dance.
You can't do that. You can't drink, you can't dance, you can't have a party, because people just, it'd be just a harder sell. Exactly, yeah.
You read the room.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so strange to me that that's what they were like. Entertainment-wise, they were very strict on what you can and can't watch, but if you're hanging out with other witnesses and there was nothing sexual or anything like that happening, then you were pretty much fine.
But was there ever a Kaylee where someone pulled up a couple because they're dancing a bit too provocative?
Yeah.
Because the shit they're watching, they're like, the skirts have to be this height. If somebody came up, a sister came in with a skirt that was a bit too high.
Yes. Yeah.
Above the knee.
Oh, that was the other thing. If... they do Bible groups and stuff like that. If there wasn't a man there, and the woman had to, the woman was saying the prayer at the start, she would have to cover her head. Yeah,
they had to cover their heads all the time anyway.
Oh, really?
So in our group, a woman, whenever it was doing anything God-related, preaching or praying, whatever, cover your head.
Even if they were just on their own?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's a sign.
I thought we were strict, man, but no.
Well, this is the weird thing, right? So we were strict in these little things, but we were okay with shunning. My family still talks to me.
Yeah, that is very different.
But that was a shocker to me, because I thought, these are the more progressive witnesses. Look at them; they're allowed to have fucking makeup and whatever. And they got that was. I told you, we called you. I'm sorry, but that was they called them the colours.
Yeah,
because you had colors in your books and flyers. Ours were in black and white or monochrome.
Yeah.
Okay. And I remember looking at you lot basically look at them being all fucking fancy and progressive, and meanwhile I'm like, oh no, they actually kick you out and do not talk to you.
Yeah, completely. So we were expected to do that when my sister got this fellowship, but like I was saying earlier, we were like, no, we're not going to not talk to. My mum was like, I'm not going to abandon my daughter, and I'm like, my sister's my sister, I'm not going to stop talking to her. So they eventually got over that, but they're really they really pushed that, and I know people that have lost all contact with their family completely, And the toll it takes on him is horrendous. Because
it's fucking mental.
You've got to bear in mind, these people have been told they've not been allowed to associate really to any real level with anyone else their entire lives. And now they're abandoned on their own. It's just complete emotional blackmail. It's basically what they're saying is so they can find their way back. But no, because even if they do come back, it's purely because they've been blackmailed into it by loneliness.
I mean, they basically kind of go, you're on your own. Yeah, obviously, you're cut off. They kind of push you towards basically suicide. But then you know that suicide is a sin. It's like one of the ultimate sins.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck with, I can't kill myself. I do want to kill myself. I don't have any friends. I guess I'm just going to have to go back. And you start second-guessing yourself.
Yeah, but the ultimate irony is that the practice of this disfellowshipping and shunning completely contradicts the Bible. It's somewhere in 1 Timothy it says, he that does not provide for his family is worse than a man without faith. So if your child leaves the faith, that should be irrelevant to you. You should still be providing for that child. You should still be... And providing for the child isn't just feeding and clothing and all that. It's...
emotional.
Yeah, you've got to look after your child. And I know parents that have cut off all contact. I think the girl was about 17, 18, maybe 19 or 20. And they just cut her completely out. Their life, stopped talking to her, all that kind of stuff. And you just think, how can you do that to your child and justify it in your head as this is the right thing to do? That's how brainwashed they are.
I mean, we had this story back home. Again, this is like the older generation, so it's slightly stricter, I guess. And of someone's son being disfellowshipped and dying, not as a result of, but afterwards.
Yeah.
And the dad not being allowed to go to his son's funeral. So he would be in the village watching it from the house, because it was like the village, cemetery is up the hill. He would just stand there and watch, and just basically the man was a broken man after that.
Yeah, of course, yeah, because isolation is such a problem. It's one of the
especially enforced isolation.
Yeah, of course,
by others.
But it's one of the big things about depression. When you're really, really depressed, you find it hard to leave the house. You convince yourself you just want to be on your own because you think that everyone else doesn't want to see you, that they hate you, or that you'd be bad company, or
the world would be better off.
You're feeling too much shame to go out and associate with people, so you become more. You kind of impose isolation on yourself when that is the worst thing to do when you're feeling depressed, because loneliness is such a horrible feeling, especially when you know you don't really have a way out because your family aren't there, your support network aren't there. So, I mean, that's a really clandestine, horrible thing for people to do. I mean, if you think about it in the context of a political party, if they were, had rules where if a member of your family stops voting for us...
Call them out.
Yeah. You'd think that's fucking insane.
Well, you say that. No political party has said it, but we see cultural movements that kind of go...
Yeah, that is true. If you don't agree with us, we want to speak to you.
Yeah, and you got to separate yourself, and it's done on the guise of self-care and whatnot. Yeah. And to a degree, I understand it, but having this background of, being in a cult, you can start recognizing some very culty behavior in today's culture.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there at least what I would say about the right-wing side of politics, which I'm not a member of. I don't like them at all. I'm very much a Labour voter.
I'm a Romanian immigrant in the UK. How right-wing can I be?
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here.
I mean, I'm technically disabled, so I'd never vote for the Conservative Party. But they're kind of more open about the way that they treat other people and stuff like that. They don't try and hide it as much. But the left-hand side of politics... is
the further left,
the extreme left. It's very clandestine. It's very sort of, if you don't think exactly like us, not only are you wrong, but you're evil.
Yeah,
you're bad, and that's exactly the same tactics that Jehovah's Witnesses use. Exactly the same.
Yeah, and I find it very fascinating as an immigrant in the UK that the two far sides are very similar in that. Right, the far right goes, well, they can come here, but need to learn our language, and they need to learn our way of life, and da-da-da-da-da. And then the far left goes, oh, welcome, you're an immigrant, welcome. So these are the marches you're going to go on, and this is our beliefs, and da-da-da-da-da. And if you don't believe them, you're not a real immigrant, you're not a real this, you're not a real that.
Yeah, it's very strange. It is very strange. But it totally reflects what Jehovah's Witnesses are like, really. And the ultimate irony is, if you told anyone on the right or the left... you're behaving like a Jehovah's Witness, they would lose their mind. They'd be so angry.
Yeah, they would, but it's there. I'm sorry, it's really there.
It is, 100%. Thankfully, I should say the girl that I was speaking about earlier that got this fellowship, she had some other family that are sort of half in, half out kind of stuff, and they speak to her, and she's doing really well for herself. She moved to London. Probably shouldn't give away too much more. But she's doing cracking, and that is amazing to see because.
Not cracking, okay.
Yeah. She's doing cracking is in the Scottish terminology for she's doing fucking great.
She's doing great heroin.
I'm sorry. But no, that's I love to see that though, because 90% of the people I know who were in it that have left have a better life now than they did when they were in it. And if that doesn't prove, and for a fact, like, because I'm 100% convinced that I have come up in conversation in that congregation.
Oh yeah.
Or like on a stage level, especially after I wrote that article basically saying they're borderline extremist cult, that kind of stuff.
And then we had a chat about this, didn't we, when the thing happened in Germany.
Yes, yeah.
And the witnesses that got shot at, and we both were like, do not condone it. It is fucked up. Violence is not the answer. But I get it.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, you can drive people, if you can drive people to suicide, you can certainly drive them to want to shoot you.
Like, I remember, like, when I went to a therapist for like a year and a half, 2 years to start dealing with some of this stuff, because you realize how much they set you back. And, once you start unpacking it, you're like, they're doing this, they taught you this and they taught you this, and how much pain is doing to you. And you look back on your life and you're like, I could have been getting laid if I had some fucking self-esteem, God damn it. Yeah. And you get so fucking angry.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that self-awareness or that help to deal with it in a healthy way, in a productive way, I can completely understand how someone would take that left turn and be like, well, here's some vengeance for you.
Yeah. I mean, that genuinely was one of the things that factored into it when I was deciding to leave. Another part of it was just because I was hanging about with a wider crowd. I was going out drinking with people, meeting more people.
There it is. The world got to him, and he was associating with the world.
And I just thought, like, what if like a lassie takes a shine to me, and I'm gonna have to be like, no. I don't have the luxury to turn down. I've got to take chances.
You're a high value man. The fuck are you talking about?
I am not a high value man.
You work out. You do well in comedy.
If I am a high value man, it's high value to other men and not women. To be fair though,
it's a high pound value.
To be fair though, I have been told that lots of times that afterwards when people have been flirting with me, but because I'm autistic I just didn't have a clue at the time.
Fair enough.
So yeah, the two things that have hold me back, that was almost very apropos. No, the things that have held me back most in sort of that kind of area have been one, being a Jehovah's Witness, and two, just being a autistic idiot when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Fair enough.
But no, it did play a factor in it. I mean, most of it was, this is wrong, both scientifically, historically, and morally, in my opinion. So it was like, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I mean, these people still believe in a global flood.
Yes.
It's meant, where did the water go?
Global flood, well, technically 42,000 year creation, because I think we're in this, are we in the seventh day now? I think that's what we were told, that we're in the seventh day. For those that don't know, God created the world in 6 days, and then the seventh day he rested. We're in the day of rest, which is 7,000 years, and the last 1,000 years is when everybody is going to get tested all over again to see if they can get into the new world.
Yeah.
Welcome to my life. Like, I had a whole different fucking history and geography and everything. Like, they would teach us in Bible study of like, this is what the world believes about Jerusalem, but we know from the Bible that is not correct.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, lots of things about Jerusalem and that period of history are right, but what the thing is, what the religious people try and do is convince you that the prophecies in the Bible were written before that shit happened.
Yeah.
When the earliest scrolls we have, I think, are the Dead Sea Scrolls, which, like, so they talk about the fall of Babylon in them, but that happened. That was written after the fall of Babylon.
Like, there's nothing impressive about writing a prophecy about something that happened in the past.
Yeah, it's it's like when Darren Brown predicted the lottery numbers just after the lottery numbers had been released. It's It's not really a trick. I think David Mitchell said the trick in that was convincing people that he'd actually predicted the lottery.
But that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And in one way, that's as big of a feat than, actually doing the thing.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. And, God, I mean, I can see why people would come up with religion in the first place. It's a way of stopping the masses from doing stupid things. Like,
yeah, I get it.
We didn't have lots of ways to like preserve certain meats and things back then. So if you control what people eat, that might help them survive longer. If you say, okay, let's get rid of same-sex relationships because we want the tribe to grow and populate, I get that. That makes sense.
But you could encourage them and be like, well, God said.
But that's the only way you're going to get people to actually do it.
But then God goes, yeah, but see those people in the land of Canaan? Just kill them all, will you?
Yeah, well, exactly.
Just take the land.
They've got nice land.
Why? Because I said so. It's cool.
Exactly.
Come on, God said it's cool, bro.
Exactly. This is a man that wanted Abraham to kill his son, so,
Yeah. Oh, I had that chat with my dad.
What would you have done it? Is that what you asked him?
Yeah. No, that wasn't the question. So witnesses are not allowed to accept blood transfusions.
Yeah.
So this was about a year ago. I asked him, if I had an accident as a child, and the doctor says the only way the kid's gonna survive if we give him blood, what would you have done? And my dad looked me in the eye, and this is the same guy that raised me by himself. Do you know what I mean? And looked me in the eye and was like, I would have done what the Bible tells me to do.
Yeah, it's mental. It's crazy. And they release so many different videos and stuff like that about the alternatives to blood transfusions, like EPO and the self-saver machine and stuff like that. And they make you believe that these are all just as effective and can be used in every single circumstance. And you speak to a medical professional for 2 seconds and you realise life just ain't like that. I do believe we will get to a point, maybe within the next 20, 30 years, where blood transfusions basically... yeah, exactly. Where medical technology advances to the point where blood transfusions aren't really commonplace anymore. They'll still exist, but they will die out. It's particularly in developed countries, but we're a good few decades from that at the moment.
I'm pretty sure by that point, Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be like, well, you can't trust the doctors because they want to put a chip in your brain.
If they are still existing in 20, 30 years...
Witnesses?
Yeah, because remember what they thought, 1975 the world was going to end?
Yeah.
I remember in 2006 they said it's imminent.
They thought in 1914 1914 they thought
originally,
the world was going to...
Yes, yeah. World War One, they thought, this is the
big
Armageddon.
One. This is the big one, boys.
Then, I can't remember why they thought it would happen in 1975. Some kind of mistranslated
I can
Bible.
tell you about I don't know the specifics reasons, but when I started, opening my eyes, I was between 16 and 18. I was like, what the fuck? And start having a lot of questions. And there's this book called The Truth Shall Set You Free.
Yes.
And we're studying this, and they give you a rundown by year of like when Adam from all going back all the way to Adam, of like who was born when and when they lived and how long they lived. And basically it goes, they say that we start counting from Adam getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden at 4025 BC. Now, if you from 4025 BC to get to the 6000 that they say is going to be the beginning of the last 1000 years when everyone's going to get tested after Armageddon, you need 1975.
Right, okay, so, that rings a bell, yeah.
So in me reading this in like, this is a book from the 50s, I'm like, the seed is getting planted in the 50s for... 1975 being the end of the world. So I was like, well, hang on a fucking minute, because obviously my witnesses were judging your witnesses of like, well, they said the world was going to end at this point, and look at what happened. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys have kind of believed that already.
Yeah.
Like, it's already there.
Yeah, I mean, and they keep pushing it back, basically, because they said it was imminent in the late 2000, like 2008, 2006. I can only imagine they're expecting it any moment now. I don't know if Armageddon's been delivered by Yodel or something like that. But
I mean, look, I'm sorry, but like people don't understand. People don't understand how positive and how optimistic and happy Jehovah's Witnesses are. Anytime there's bad news, or like Russia says this, this is it, boys.
It's funny, like because they did say obviously the sign of the times, and they talk about the world as if it's the worst it's ever been, when hands down this is the best time to be alive by a long margin.
Yes.
Life expectancy is higher than it's ever been. The lowest
brother Peter, it's not higher than when Methuselah lived 600 years.
How dare I forget
about Methuselah?
Who was it? Enoch, was it?
Enoch, yeah,
that lived. And Methuselah, he was supposed to be the oldest man in the Bible.
How are you forgetting about these cunts?
Yeah, more fool me for forgetting about
the historical fact.
But it's the best time ever to be alive, realistically. Aside from maybe exactly in the year 2000 when everything was just a bit,
it's
mental. And but did they say this in yours as well? That the day that world peace is declared, that's when everything will fall apart.
This is hilarious. I had this fucking debate with my stepmom and my dad, because they're witnesses, and I was like, we're having this debate about what's happening in the world, and I was just getting a bit annoyed because there's no talking to him. But coming away, I'm like, if things are going bad, then this is it, the end of the world. And if things are going well, then it's like, well, just you wait. The moment they say peace on earth, that's when it's gonna happen. Yeah. Like, there's no winning.
No.
This is like such a completely enclosed loop.
Yeah.
And then there's some things they can't answer, which the classic, well,
it's a matter of faith.
Matter of faith. You can't rely on your own. They teach you they can't rely on your own judgment, your own wisdom.
God works in mysterious ways.
You're putting yourself above the word of God.
Yes.
And I was thinking, I mean, this is a conversation that's a bit all over the place because there's so many different angles to take this in. But I was trying to break down the different ways they kind of fuck you up as a child. And there's three things I picked up on. I was like, one, they tell you that anything right or wrong comes from the Bible. So you can't rely on your own conscience because, you can't put your own conscience before God. Then they tell you that, you're worthless, you don't invest too much in yourself, you don't think highly of yourself. We would say phrases like we're vermin, we're like specks of dust, things like that, put ourselves down regularly. And then finally, they say, don't rely on your own judgment, your own wisdom. So what you think needs to be given to you, needs to be okayed by another entity. Yeah. What you think is right needs to be okayed by another entity. And you feeling okay about yourself needs to be like, again, okayed by another entity.
Yeah.
So you don't have any self-governance, self-reliance.
So ours was slightly different. We were allowed to have like a relatively decent view of ourselves so long as we attributed our successes to God. So it wasn't about putting us down. You could, pride was obviously still a sin, but you could be like happy with yourself and content with yourself, but I had to acknowledge that the reason you were happy and content with yourself is because of God.
Were you allowed to use the word "I'm proud of you" or like the phrase "I'm proud of you"?
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah.
So I would get corrected. So if I said "I'm proud of you" or "I'm proud of this," my dad would be like, "Say you're happy."
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing?" It was just more like, "Son." Okay,
yeah. It was strange in ways like that, especially when it came to, this was one of the arguments I would have about me wanting to go to uni, was that I just felt that I had the potential to do that, and I said to them, would God not want me to live up to my potential? I mean, would he not want me to be the best version of myself that I could possibly be? And they obviously were then banging on about how it would take away time from doing the ministry, and if you were doing a job like that and blah, 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 you should just become a window cleaner. And I was like, no offence, mate, but I just don't, I think I can contribute more to like the world's society than being a window cleaner. I think I can do more than that. And the guy was like, oh, you're looking down on window cleaners? And I was like, no, not at all. They provide a really valuable service. I think it's great, but I just don't think that's the best use of my talents. I want to go and do IT or like science or physics or something like that. That's what I wanted to go and do at that point in time, or accounting. Something where I could make a contribution, it could be helpful. Because if even in, you look at the Kingdom Hall alone, if 90% of the people in there are window cleaners, who's going to do the finances? Who's going to do the computing? Who's going to do all that kind of stuff?
That's a topic. Where's all the finances?
Yeah.
How's that going? So I don't want to, again, this is a little detour, but the witnesses I was a part of, that group fell apart and became fractured, partially because people started getting a bit iffy about the finances and starting, because obviously they're a religion, they're not taxed.
Yeah.
So people started being like, well, I want to see the books. And then this became, I'm like, you don't trust us, da. And then also surprisingly, the people leading the congregation had very cozy lives, despite the fact that they didn't have a day job because they were just doing ministry all the time.
Yeah, that's very different to ours then. Yeah.
Yeah, but then they would have, a decent house and a decent car. And what does he do? Oh, he's they say that he carves wood ornaments. And I'm like, how fucking expensive are these wood ornaments? And how much of them is he selling? Like, is he like the most successful wood ornament guy in town? That he's like built 2 houses.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, our accounts are very public. So every month, the guy that managed the accounts for the Kingdom Hall would go up onto the platform, and he would announce the accounts, what the expenditures were, what the incomings were. So it was all very public knowledge what money was coming in and coming out of that.
Oh, nice.
But I think that's probably because, like that and like other examples across the world, there were places where people were just robbing, and I think they were really trying to prove.
Allegedly.
Yes. I didn't name anyone, so I think we're all right. But there's
I told them what they did for a living.
Yeah. Yeah. To be fair, was this in Romania?
Yeah.
I'd be amazed if he's watching this.
1 and 2, Romania. Plenty of people, do tax evasion.
Yeah.
Which not tax evasion, tax avoidance.
Yeah, or avoision, as Kent Brockman would say.
Tax aversion is what people have.
Yeah, I think they were hyper conscious of people's perceptions of religion as a whole and Jehovah's Witnesses, so they were trying to sort of debunk that. And then obviously all that, there was a panorama that came out in sometime during the 2000s about nonces and the faith, and this is just propaganda against the religion. It's complete nonsense, and it's like.
So here's the thing.
Is it though?
So here's the thing. This is a sensitive topic because I know the people involved. I know both of the people involved.
Really?
Yes.
Where was this?
This was in Romania.
I think that this was...
No. So I know a specific story in Romania. This... I'm not saying this is what they all do. I'm just saying that based on what the culture is, it might happen potentially more than once.
That is... I imagine... There are so many people, taxi drivers, who have said that about you. I'm not saying this is what they all do.
I'm not saying this is what all Romanians do. Yeah, no. But what I'm trying to say is, like, the culture of Jehovah's Witnesses is very much set up to be just exclusive.
Yes.
We don't communicate with the law.
Yep.
We resolve stuff in-house.
Yep.
We very much have our own way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
Right? And someone that I know there was abuse involved. And the thing is, it got swept under the rug so much that I, as a kid, knew the person that done it. I was aware of the story, but I was just very much, it's hearsay.
Yeah.
And later on, I confirmed with the victim, or the survivor. They might prefer that too. And they were like, yeah, it happened. And I trust them, so I believed them. But I knew this person. I slept in their house growing up. My dad fucking was aware of the hearsay.
Yeah.
All brushed it off. I was never touched.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's because obviously with the Catholic Church there's a very public
well, because there's a lot more of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think the global Jehovah's Witnesses when I was in it was 7 million, which is compared to almost every other major religion is tiny.
I mean, it's less than 1% of the population.
Yeah. I mean,
less than 0.1% now. If we go with 8 billion.
Yeah. I mean, Catholics have like over 1 billion. I think, in fact, possibly even more than that.
Okay. It's not competition.
Yeah, I know. But if it was, they'd probably be winning. But them are Islam. So there's and you compare that to just 7 million people. That's the population of Scotland, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a very small religion, but
it's very active.
Yes.
Very potent.
But that's the thing. They would talk about other religions and bring up the bad things that they would do as proof that they were not the right guys. You shouldn't be on their team. Look at all the paedophilia in the Catholic Church. What about the paedophilia here? That doesn't happen. What you're talking about? That's complete propaganda. Just people try to bring down Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'm like,
they're attacking us because we're good.
When you look back on
because we're so not pedos. Yeah, they're attacking us.
Yeah, it's because we are God's messengers on earth, and you just look back at it and go, it's such an insane way to think. Like, why is it any different?
It's Donald Trump as a religion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, what pedos?
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're pedos. If we were pedos, we'd be huge. Do you know what I mean? Like, but we're not.
Honestly, like pointing at other religions, going, oh yeah, they're terrible, and what about these ones? Propaganda. No.
But that was the thing. So I describe my religious experience as I learned very early on that all the other religions are wrong, and I realized that this was wrong too. So I patched it all.
Yeah, that was, I think it was something Ricky Gervais said once. If you're a religious person, aren't you lucky you got born into the right one?
Yeah.
Like it's so true. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that I was obviously spent time as a Catholic and a Jehovah's Witness, and I've never been nonced on. So I do want to.
The fucking dangers that you just, you're like Matrix avoiding this.
To be honest with you, I was quite annoyed about it. Like, it didn't even try. I know, like, I was
between the autism and this, your self-esteem was taking a proper
exactly, mate. Do you know how disappointing it is to go through Catholic school and Catholic church and not even get a look in? And I was overweight and asthmatic, so if anything, I was easier to catch. But
not even once.
I inject a little bit of humour into what is a very serious conversation.
Yeah, like just never being called in for like extra Bible study.
Yeah, but I remember that panorama coming out and them talking about it because it was something that was happening in Britain because obviously the BBC would talk about paedophilia in Romania. Why would they give a shit? That's abroad. No one cares. But so it was happening here as well, and it just got sort of.
Yeah, but then
brushed under the rug, or they weren't a proper Jehovah's Witness, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a little dig at the BBC, but the moment the Ukraine war started, it was like, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, they're just like us.
Yeah. All of a sudden give a shit. When I'm pretty sure, actually, shortly before Russia invaded Ukraine, Ukraine was getting hammered by most of left-wing media for being an extremely right-wing country, for being one of the most extreme countries in the EU. I come from a country, technically south of Ukraine. We're still figuring out the gays. I remember this. I went back home, and we're in a club, and two gay guys are dancing and kissing, and there's people proper whistling at them. Yeah. And I'm in this fucking basement thinking, guys, I can't fucking save you. Like, don't do this to yourselves. There's nothing, like, I felt bad because, like, there's nothing I can do to help you. And if this kicks off, you are so on your own. There's a whole fucking club here. Yeah.
Now, nothing happened. So Romania's been involved in a lot as well. But we're still working on it.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is one of the things that's really hard to grasp and center yourself on with all these things that are going on around the world. Like, the Qatar World Cup and stuff like that, I was so against it being there, and the treatment of women and gay people and all that kind of stuff over there. It's just horrible. But people make the point of, why do we get to decide that our culture is correct and theirs is wrong? And it's like, well, it's not about culture; it's about human rights.
But there's something fascinating. Think about it: the countries that are most developed and not that they can afford to be pro-human rights, but they can afford to come off religion and come off the old school mentality of countries that made their money a couple centuries ago involved in some very questionable behavior.
To be fair, I think
not all of it.
I think you will find that the Arab states were involved in equally questionable behaviour at that point in time, and they have clung to that religion like a stag beetle. Like,
fair enough.
People forget about the Arab slave trade, but
Now, you know what? That's fair enough. But there's just something interesting about
Also, Korea had one of the longest sustained periods of slavery in human history.
You know a lot about you've had this debate a couple of times.
It was the comedians Bobby Lee and Charlie Santino were talking about it. And Bobby Lee
Andrew
said...
Santino.
Andrew Santino, sorry, yeah. I'm thinking of Charlie Patino, the Arsenal player. No, so Andrew Santino, yeah. And Bobby Lee made the claim that the Koreans have never had a slave trade, and Andrew Googled it. And it turned out they had the longest sustained period of slavery in human history.
Okay, but gotta give it to the West. They put in the numbers.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, gun beats spear. What can I say?
It does.
But that's the thing. Like, obviously, we
industrialized. That's the industry.
Yeah, and you know, Catholicism and Protestantism and Christianity as a whole has been around for longer than Islam or religions like that. So it's had time to have reformations and grow and develop.
That's true.
And stuff
That's
like
fair
that.
as well.
And you've got to bear in mind a lot of the sort of Middle Eastern countries that now have a lot of money, 20, 40, 60 years ago,
did not have it.
Yeah, they were broke. They didn't, like, education wasn't really a big thing. They didn't have an educated populace to any real degree. So they're still catching up. They're still playing catch up to us. So it will take them a bit longer.
And the ones that did have a progressive movement might have had somewhat of an American involvement in bringing some other pro-American governments into power.
Yes, potentially.
Allegedly. I'm just, like, it's a fucking mess.
Yeah,
okay, I'm not.
I do want to say that's just the counter argument that people put to me, like, you know, every country develops at a different rate, and I do understand that to some degree. But when it comes to human rights and whether you should be throwing gay people off a building, I don't think we can sit back and go, well, that's just a cultural difference. You know?
I'm not about to be, you know, what if you really, you got to hear them out first. I'm not about to be that.
Hold on. You might have a very good reason for throwing that person off that building.
But if you, no, I'm definitely not saying that. It's just more like, again, I've learned, well, past couple of years that people don't start in the same place. Don't start with the same information.
Course,
and then based on where you start in life, you know, no matter how hard you try, you can try very hard. There's a limit to how far you can go if someone started fucking 2 centuries ahead.
Yeah,
let's say.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for the work that my mum did with various charity groups and stuff like that, growing up in a council estate in Glasgow, like, I wouldn't have been as open and as accepting of gay people. I would have eventually, but it would have taken a bit of time. And if I'd fallen in with the wrong crowd, in that estate, but thankfully my grandparents and my mum and that were, like, kept me on the straight and narrow. But I probably would have had some bad views about them until eventually I grew out of it.
I mean, to be fair, this is my one card. It's like, up to the age of 16, if I said anything homophobic, I was in a cult. Okay, I was in a fucking cult. What do you want from me?
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was Jehovah.
Yes,
my imaginary friend.
Yes, now it was wild, man. Because they teach you some crazy shit. And yeah.
I like wives to be in subjection to husbands as well. That's another one that they're fond of.
I mean, I was gonna ask you this because I feel like this is something I'm very interested in. I feel like a lot of people would be, but how's the hypocrisy in these congregations? How's, because there's definitely, I know there's hypocrisy in it, and we bend more fucking rules than the Catholic Church, to quote The Sopranos. But there's a lot of internal politics. Yes,
a lot.
Yes.
So the kids of elders get away with murder. Like you say, everything just gets covered up if it's someone who's an important member of the church. And because my mum was a single parent, anything that we were involved with, even if I didn't do anything, usually I didn't because I didn't want to get caught, they would just say, oh, it was him. And because single parent, no dad, no elder in the house to stand up and say, you know, it's fine, just pin the blame on me. And I wouldn't grass them in because, you know, I'm not a grass, basically. So I would just sit there and take it from them. But I would tell my mum, I'd be like, look, this is all nonsense. It was them that did this. But I'm not going to, because I know they'll just get, one, they won't believe me. And two, if they did, those kids are just going to get a bollocking that I wouldn't want them to get. So I'm just not going to.
So this is where the Glaswegian principles and morals won over.
Exactly, you know. It's a weird coincidence, man. Like, a lot of the Jehovah's Witnesses, well, I think there was 3 Jehovah's Witnesses families in the council estate that we lived, and it was kind of weird dynamic where there'd be a couple of poor people and then a couple of rich people, but it was mostly sort of middle class to some degree. But because their lives were so restricted, it's almost like they didn't realize they were middle class because materialism is a sin, and and it's just, you go over to these houses, like I'm coming from a house in a council estate where the bedroom walls didn't go all the way from the ceiling to the floor. You could look under it into the next room, and I'm going into these houses in the south side of Glasgow going, jeez.
It's not a competition, but I grew up with a bunk bed, didn't have a bathroom, and we had an outhouse. So
To be fair, I would say no matter how shit the houses are in the council estates of Scotland, it's probably one up on Romania. I will give you that.
So we were poor by Romanian standards.
Yeah,
as well. So
oh fucking hell.
Working class.
Yeah, there's a lot of internal politics in it, and.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stood out to me is like I'm guessing you had a choir as well.
No,
do you not have a choir?
No. We sang at the start and end of every meeting, but there was no choir really.
So we had a really good choir. We had. I'm not part of it anymore. But
I'm surprised you were allowed that.
Well, it was only singing, gospel songs.
You have to stand perfectly still while you sing because you're not allowed to dance.
No, just sing. There's no this. It's just white people singing. What do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, at least, we were on key most of the time and on beat, on rhythm.
That's your boast about it.
Yes. Actually, it was like a beautiful choir and whatever. But I knew the people that were involved in it. So one of the kids, because he's a little older than me, he was studying music, like professionally going to an art school, studying music. And he would, try to bring the choir up to that standard. And he would be like, guys, you're lagging here, da-da-da-da-da. And he got put down of like, don't bring this worldly fucking musical knowledge into our, into the organization of God. That's the world stuff, as long as it's straight from the heart, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, we had actually the opposite of that. One of the times at a meeting they asked, who can read music in the room? And then a bunch of us put our hands up. And then he said, oh, we expect you to be belting out the song. And I was like, I can read music. It doesn't mean I can sing in key.
Yeah.
I know what all those notes mean on that paper, but that doesn't mean I can then sing that. If you give me a piano, I'll play it for you. But
you can play the piano?
Well, I played the keyboard. It's roughly the same shit. I mean, that was a very long time ago. But it's a weird sidetrack. The reason I got into like doing music lessons is because my gran's friend for Christmas once bought me a glockenspiel. If that's not the most white middle class fucking gift you can give her.
I'm not gonna lie. I heard the first. I was like, got a Glock, and I was like, wait, Grandpa's packing.
Yeah, no, in fact, no, I can't say that. Anyway, no, so,
allegedly.
Yeah, I got a glockenspiel, and obviously my mum was like, well, you're gonna have to do lessons now. You can't have a musical instrument and not learn how to play it. So I did music lessons in glockenspiel, because you couldn't do just one lesson. Timpani, so kettle drums, the big bastards, and snare drum, and I did up to like grade 3 or grade 4, and then before I was old enough to tell my mum, can we jack this shit, and I don't want to get up at this time on a Saturday to go
and before you started getting proper bullied in school.
I mean, no, to be fair, it helped because it meant when in like second year and third year and fourth year when we were doing music in high school, I mean, I was playing songs, the things we had to do for music class were mostly songs that I'd already learned on the glockenspiel.
Okay.
I was just glockenspiel and kettle drums I was pretty good at, but when we had to do keyboard, it just annoyed the shit out of me. I don't know why we've got onto that.
I was going to ask you two things, and then I looked at the time. I was like, okay, I don't want to hold you back too long. Plus, we want a gig.
Yes,
there's a gig that we want to go to. But
that's a good point. Yes.
The one thing I wanted to ask you is, did you enjoy it while you were in it?
No.
At all?
No.
There was nothing.
I liked my mates because we had a good group of guys, and at that point in time, I would have bet my left bollock that at least 1, 2, 3 or 4 of them wouldn't stay. At current proceedings, 2 of them have gone.
Yeah.
One of them left and then went back.
Oh,
fucking idiot! And the 2 that I predicted would stay throughout have stayed throughout, and I think are both married now.
Okay.
Raising children and that
in it.
thing. So
the cycle continues.
I liked my mates I did not like going to the meetings. They were boring as fuck.
Right.
I certainly did not like going around chapping people's doors because I'm autistic. That is my idea of hell. And, you know, the school catchment area is so big, the fear that you were going to chap on someone you know's door. And
Oh yeah, I've went witnessing.
Yeah.
I've done that. I don't know if I've met people from school on the street while we were witnessing, so I've had that experience.
Yeah, no, I didn't like that. The only benefits of it really was at Catholic school, I would get out of some classes. Me and the Japanese kid would go and play board games while they were doing religious studies. That was pretty much it, man. That was the only benefit of that religion.
But you made up for it with like fucking, what was it, Saturdays?
Yeah.
Sundays.
Or the convention. Did you have those?
We'd have like
3 days
Congress.
in a football stadium.
Yes. Selling out like fucking Ricky Gervais. Dave Chappelle came to town.
It was the biggest attendance St Mirren had ever had. Not St Mirren, sorry, St Johnston had ever had in that stadium. I guaranteed that. But, gee, like, you'd be looking forward to seeing a dramatic recreation of a Bible story because it was more than just a guy talking. Like, the dramas were the only, like, you'd be like...
You did dramas?
Yeah, there was...
Motherfucker.
People dressed up doing that and all that. Because it's all audio recorded beforehand, but...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
I was so... I mean, the last year when I was beginning to start to question it, it was the last one. Like, I was vaguely ill on the Friday, so I was just sitting in the car and I was like, can we just go home? So we did go home and we never went back.
We had, oh god, so we call them, well, conventions, we call them, I think, Congress, something like that. In Romanian, it's Congress. And we had just a sea of like 40 plus aged men giving you different speeches about different topics.
Yeah.
And you get through the day somehow. And then, you know, these are, as you said, most of them are working class. None of them are allowed to, you know, really study anything else. They get really good at talking to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But many of them were fucking boring.
Yeah.
And then, like, you would look, like, you knew, like, you would look at the lineup of, like, who's talking today.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that one and that one, I'm gonna pay attention. The other ones, I'm gonna fucking fall asleep throughout.
Yeah.
And then the worst thing that could happen is obviously you open every day with a prayer and you finish with a prayer. And at the end, you'd get this old guy who's like, this is my moment. And instead of just saying the Lord's Prayer, he's fucking spicing out. He's remixing it.
You had the Lord's Prayer?
We had the Lord's Prayer remixed on occasion. It had to be the Lord's Prayer because we're simple like that. We're not allowed too much fancy shit. But then every now and again, someone would make it a bit more extra. And next thing you know, you're standing there with your eyes closed for like 3 minutes and this guy's still talking. And you're like, dude, just say amen. Just get it done with.
It was all sort of ad-libbed prayers. There was no preset ones. You weren't allowed. The Lord's Prayer was Catholic in our mind or Protestant or like, so it was all... Any prayer that was said on thing was just the guy coming up with it off the top of his head.
But you had the New World Translation of the Bible. Does not have a Lord's Prayer in it?
Probably. I mean, I genuinely, it's been so long since I looked at the Bible, but I genuinely believe I have read the entire Bible.
I've read it when I was 10 years old.
Not
to back.
Not in the one go, but just over the course of 8 years or whatever it was in that religion, I genuinely believe...
Oh, I read it front to back, including the boring bits of whose son was who.
Yeah, begat and Jesus.
A lot of begetting.
Some of it's really good.
Oh yeah, there's like, was it? I'm trying to think. Song of Songs gets very graphic.
There's a lot of wars and shit, man. It's weird. Like, I mean,
like there's wars and shit, and it gets a bit sexual in parts.
Yeah. David was spying on someone in the bath, if I remember. King David.
Oh yeah, got someone killed because of his wife.
Yeah, because he wanted to bang his wife.
Yeah.
And he's one of the best kings in the Bible, you know.
Well, he got punished for that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
had to kill his own son.
Yeah,
or his son betrayed him.
I mean that's not really it's punishment befitting the crime. But that's the other thing I would say that it did give me was because I was doing public speaking so young, it probably helped me a lot with that. And they teach you like theological arguments. So you become very good at debating.
Yeah.
So I'm very good at sort of putting my point across and winning arguments, even if I'm not correct, because you have to be in order to be a Jehovah's Witness.
yes.
You
just have to like spin it. Yeah.
Did you like it?
So that's what I was thinking about, because I think this is the difference, because I grew up in it, from a baby. I loved it.
That's so strange.
So here's the thing. I loved it until I was like, oh, this is bullshit. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, this is fucking bullshit. And then I hated it. But while it was like, it was the only thing that gave me purpose.
Yeah.
Because it was set up, it's a funnel.
Yeah.
Nothing outside of it makes sense. Everything, it's the old world is getting burned down. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is to get into the new world.
Yeah.
Right? So for me, and just keeping yourself separate from the world made sense because you're constantly representing, you're constantly walking around town being a little Jehovah's Witness. You're on your little quest.
Yeah.
And it just feels great. And you get together and you're doing it's like a football stadium. You're facing the same way, singing the same fucking song. Or not, not the same way, but, you're all together doing a fucking chant, whatever.
Honestly, I none of it was fun.
But I told you, I got into it so much. I started translating. I was doing extra stuff.
Yeah, I can't understand that at all, man. I just found it to be the most dull, depressing.
I mean, there was a lot. It was challenging.
Yeah. Oh,
but no. I was gonna tell this quick story. So when I realized I'm done.
Yeah.
But I still had to go. Because my dad straight up told me that.
Yeah.
When I told him I was thinking of becoming a psychologist or an actor, I was told that if I become an actor, there's no way he's going to support me financially because that's a worldly thing to do. So I kept my mouth shut and told him he can go work abroad, which he did. I started going to acting classes on my own and then still showing up for Bible class every couple of weeks and just telling my dad that basically I'm getting ready it's my final year in high school. I need to get my exams done. I'm getting ready for that, so I can't go. So I would still show up every now and again. And one time, I remember this because it was burned in my mind. I'm sitting there hating every single minute of it because this nonsense, and then they don't understand anything about science or biology, but then they put on a documentary about why creation is the only way. Yeah. And they go on about proteins and whatever. Nobody says anything. But then one of the scientists would say, and that is why it's too complex to have appeared by its own, or, and some sister goes, he's so right. And you're like, you didn't understand a single fucking word. You can't agree with someone who you do not understand. So you're in this environment of just boiling of 2 hours.
Yeah.
And somebody stands up and says, oh, by the way, they found Noah's Ark on the Mount Ararat. And at this point, I've had enough. So I very politely stand up and I just say, brothers and sisters, let's just keep in mind that Noah's Ark has been found 5 times already. So let's wait until they at least test the wood to see what they actually found. And I sit down, and the brother leading it says, well, thank you, Silas, for that, but it's a good thing that our faith is not based on facts. Now, what he meant was, I think the Bible says that faith is belief on the unseen.
But faith is the assured expectations of things hoped for yet not seen.
Exactly, that one. But he just said,
they drilled that into me well, didn't they?
Yes, but he said our faith is not based on facts. And I just sit down, my cousin next to me, and we just both look at each other like,
yeah, no. There was a bunch of sort of scientific stuff that they would try and go into, and also this idea that the universe, people say, how could that happen by accident? It's you've misunderstood what happened with the Big Bang. It's do you know how many stars there are that have planets around them in the universe, and you say, how could this possibly happen by accident? Because it's happened 1 billion times all over the place. The fact that it's happened once isn't that weird.
Yeah, it's not. It's statistics.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other question was going to be, is there anything that you think you're still carrying that did you manage to fully let it go?
I think perhaps certain elements of the way I look at certain things. I think the fact that I would still probably consider sex to be quite... it's not a casual thing to me. And dating, I'd probably view it as... if I didn't see the person as compatible, as a potential person that I would want to be with long term, then why go... if you realise that after, one date, why do date 2 or 3? That.
Okay.
If there's no long-term future, there's probably some elements of morality and things like that have stuck with me from it, and my views on certain things probably have stayed with it. But I would say probably because of my grandparents being Catholic and the way we were raised before that, the way my mum is, I probably have those views anyway. So I don't think it's because of being a Jehovah's Witness that I think like that. It's perhaps made them a bit more strong in those ways. But I mean, that's breaking down now. Like a lot of the things that I used to view as really abhorrent, I'm just like, yeah, you do you.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear it, man, because like I've got a soft spot for like some of the kids I know that are leaving now.
Yeah.
And for anyone that I knew grew up in it or was in it, and I know they have to walk away, have to slightly rebuild themselves afterwards. And
Yeah,
like,
100%.
I just lost like this amount of years of my life in this thing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit.
I would say that, like, if any Jehovah's Witnesses who are leaving or thinking of leaving stumble upon this and your research and stuff, do feel free to reach out.
Aye.
I'll happily talk to you, and I will happily convince you it's the best fucking decision you can make in your life.
And hey, we turned out okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was already autistic. It wasn't leaving that turned me. Which is another very good point that I would like to raise with the if God's creation is so perfect, why does my brain have a name? You know, why am I just normal human being? Oh, look, he's got an autistic brain because he's broken inside. But yeah, no, honestly, like I'd strongly advise anyone that's thinking of leaving, you know, if that's what you want to do it, because it'll be a weight off your shoulders, and reach out to other people who have left. I guarantee on Reddit there are threads of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that will speak to you, and we're on social media, and I'm imagining you're the same as me. We'll happily speak and help you through that, because it is very isolating, but genuinely, mate, you'll feel much better.
And life is possible without them. After them.
Yeah.
It's pretty good, actually.
You learn so much, man. Honestly, start listening to Brian Cox. The universe is fucking fascinating. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, you're going to have to stop putting your thinking cap on, actually making sense of the world. Yeah. But it's fucking worth it.
Do you know what? Make the truth your own. That's what you should do.
Yeah, this is the post-truth era. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, brother.
It's been a pleasure.
Some things never fucking die, do they?
No, I mean, I've not been a Catholic for 24 years, and I still catch myself doing that every now and then. So
fair enough. Yeah,
some things don't die.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
No worries.
Let's get going.
Cheers.